when you guys look at yourselves on screen, are you naturally critical? Who's more critical of themselves, or can either of you get lost in the film or your performance?
I mean, I'm always quite self-deprecating, I suppose, but I'm trying to get out of that and try and be able to look at something from a removed point of view. But I mean, it's even hard watching people you know in a role, even if they're fantastic. You know that person so well that it's hard to sort of separate it. But I don't know.
You can never be a character. That's the one thing I'm sort of starting to realise. I always thought that, you know, you look at kind of Raging Bull and stuff and think like, wow, De Niro's actually, he's become someone else. And I was completely convinced that there was some way that you can actually become someone else for 3 months. But I'm gradually, you know, starting to realise it's not so much, but it's more about, you know, performance rather than actually some kind of physical manifestation. I mean, like, and it's taken me quite a long time to realise that.
There are some scenes in there that are rather intimate between you guys. You know, I don't call them sex scenes, might be a little bit, give the wrong impression, but, you know, who's more comfortable with that? Is there,
give the wrong impression.
Well, I don't want, it's not a Basic Instinct. There's no, like, NC-17 version of this that I know of. Is there?
There's no sodomizing.
Good to know.
Yes.
But,
I don't think.
Who's more nervous on those days?
Oh, me, absolutely.
You think?
Yeah, you were like fine. There was a funny little thing that Alan did before we went in, because you know, on films they always make it really, give you a real security around it whenever anything's happening. They don't let anyone, you know, it's like one person on the set, and they give you this whole talk saying, like, no one's going to be around, don't worry about it. And then we walked in, and Alan gave us this whole kind of lecture about how it feels safe. And we walked into the bedroom, and he's like, you know, I've just got a couple of things which, you know, you can use them or don't use them, it's fine, if it just makes you feel better about it. And we walk into the bedroom, like, laid out on the bed, the art department had got all these things like handcuffs and like kind of like sort of improvised sex toys made out of like hair dryers and things, and and every single thing from the costume felt like a top hat, and sort of like all these little things. It was quite funny. It was quite
eyes wide shut. You're doing.
And it was quite funny as well, because we had to I had to get this patch as well to like a ball sack or whatever it's called.
Modesty patch. A
modesty patch, yeah. And they didn't have one available.
Well, they didn't have one for me.
Yeah, and they made it out of half a bra, doing this thing, and then she had to like tape it, like stretching around into my arse crack. It was quite funny. It was really delightful.
Yes, yeah. Glamour of movie making. Wow. And Rob, this is obviously your first film since these little Twilight films, and I would think, well, you tell me, have you been kind of pulling your hair out, trying to figure out what the first thing you were going to do was with this opportunity at your feet? Like, where do you go from there?
Kind of. I mean, I looked at that. I looked at Remember Me after the first Twilight film, kind of in the summer, and met Alan and Nick, and just thought I really liked it, and didn't know if anything was ever going to come of it. I mean, the period between New Moon and Eclipse was, I think it was 2 months or something, which you can film very few things in such a short period of time. And it didn't really involve an enormous amount of prep work. And I thought it was just kind of perfect to fit into that segment. And it was kind of, I don't know, I'd never really played a normal guy before. And it was sort of, and it was just that. It was just a really solid story, and I'd never really done that.
You're in the middle of something that is, again, going to have a sexual nature to it. Is it as intense as this, or more intense than this one? How would you compare it in terms of the sexual nature?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of sex in the other one, because it's basically about a guy who, I mean, it's a different era as well. I mean, Paris in the 1890s are kind of, you know, everybody, it's like the complete antithesis of what you normally think period dramas are about, because everyone's normally like sort of stuck in their clothes and stuff. Whereas in Paris, everybody was just going nuts. It was like the 1980s, and everybody, sex was a kind of weapon and a tool, and and it's kind of it's odd. I mean, it's incredibly different. I mean, I think the ones that remember me are sort of pretty tender, and in Bellamy, it's I don't know, there's something very mercenary about it in a lot of ways.
Really quickly on Twilight, just because everyone's talking, 3D or no 3D, how do you vote for the next one for Breaking Dawn?
The 3D thing confuses me. I don't know. I haven't seen Avatar or any of these 3D movies yet, and it kind of, I don't know, the idea of it. I remember 3D from when I was a kid, and I just can picture it giving me a headache. So I don't know.
And 1 or 2 movies, you still?
I still don't know. I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't care, the personal preference at this point?
No, I mean, it really just depends on the script. So, I mean, either way.